In this video segment, we're going to talk about functions of theories, functions of family theories, and then we'll also discuss how to analyze theories. We'll do a little bit of analysis of theories throughout the course. When we talk about a theory, it's good to say how well does this fulfill the functions of a theory, and also what are some other ways that we can pick this theory apart. So let's start with these various, I think we have about 6 functions of theories that we'll cover. One of the functions of theories is to take and accumulate various pieces of data. So we can go out in the world and look at things, ask questions, collect a lot of data, and then we puzzle and say, how do these things fit together? What's a theory about how these things fit together, right? So here is a chance for you to build a mini theory, all right? I'm going to give you 5 pieces of data, and these are true pieces of data. We have evidence, right? These are evidence-based data points. And then we'll have you pause the video and see if you can come up with some kind of explanation, right? So we had a rising divorce rate in the 1970s, right? And on into the 80s. At the same time, we were experiencing more women entering the workforce. Couple that with, we had more females enrolling in college. Up until the early 1980s, I think it was 82, 83, 1983, right around that point, where women reached parity with enrollment, college enrollment with men. And then they started surpassing them. So, right, more females were enrolling in college until now we have a higher rate of female enrollment. This is undergraduate college, not graduate college. It took a bit longer before women started reaching parity with men in graduate college. But for this, it's undergraduate. So more females enrolling, now and then past the early 1980s, they started enrolling at a higher rate. Well, if you break the data down a little farther, you find that among people who were raised in a home where there's no father present, this gender gap between women and men enrolling is even greater. Right? So if you take the data and you separate it into 2 groups, homes where children raised in a home where there was a father present, you still had females enrolling at a slightly higher rate than males. But you go over here to the data where you say there's a group of people who were raised in homes where a father wasn't present, and the gap is even bigger. So you say females enroll at a much higher rate than males when there's no father present. All right, pause the video and come up with some kind of theory that takes these 5 pieces of data and you accumulate them together, right, and come up with a theory of your own. So pause. All right, I'm back. Hopefully you're back too. Hopefully you really paused the video. You didn't just stare at me for the second that I sat staring at the camera. But what's your theory? Okay. Well, one potential explanation, one potential theory could be that people look to the same gender parent for an example of how to behave as an adult. And so when you're raised in a family with 2 parents in the house, and your mom and your dad both are getting some education, then both females and males are going to enroll. When you're raised in a home with no father present, you don't see that father present with the providing and with showing that he went to college, then the females see somebody, they see mother, but the males don't have the role model. And so they don't go. Or another theory could be that men who do not see a father helping provide for the family don't believe it's the male role. And so they don't go to college to obtain greater opportunities for employment. Okay, those are a couple of different theories. I'd be interested to hear yours if you want to send them to me. So anyway, that's one function of a theory, is to take these points of data and accumulate them and try and explain things. All right, another one is theories help us understand things with greater precision, right? So when we try to start explaining something and we want to write a theory about it, it somehow forces us to be more precise in our language, right? When we're trying to say, this is a theory, we tend to be a little more precise. We also have to, if we want to create a theory, we have to consider counterfactuals. What are some things that might be disproving the way we want to see things, the way that we want to say things in our theory, right? So theories help us be more precise in what we're trying to understand. So that's another function of a theory. Third function is the idea of guidance. A theory should help guide research. It should help guide opportunities to have new discoveries. So lots of scientific research is either to support or refute theory. So we're saying, okay, there's this proposal about the way the world works, the way people work in families. Let's do some research to try and prove that or disprove it. So it also gives us, as we're doing that, once we start to say, okay, this theory seems to be working in these ways, these types of things that come from the theory are helping us understand these things about family. So that gives us more avenues for intervention. For instance, we'll get to family systems theory later as a particular theory, but when we started using family systems theory and saying there's something about interacting together that brings out different things about people, and if we can look at the interactions of the people, that gives us the opportunity to help people better. So we start having, instead of just saying, you're having a problem, go see a therapist, we say, you're having a problem, let's bring the whole family in. Because there might be something about the way the family's interacting that pushes a person to behave a particular way. It becomes their function or their role in the family. Very insightful. Very insightful. All right? So theories help give us guidance to our scientific research and also to our interventions. Theories not only can, like the first point, gather items of things into one, but they also can show connectedness between things. So we can start seeing how a variety of things are connected. So that's another function of a theory. Show the connections between things. Another is prediction. Right? Theories help us predict things. So if we have a particular theory, let's take social exchange theory. Social exchange theory would make some type of prediction that if exchanges are positive, then the relationship should last longer. Right? So we can predict that. And we can say, okay, well, what's the level of positive exchanges going on in a marriage. And if we see that that's high, we will predict that the couple would stay together. Whereas if we see exchanges that are not mutually beneficial, that are not exchanges that are more negative and incur more cost, then we'll say, we would predict that this couple would not stay together. Right? So we try to predict. Right? The sixth thing is it gives us a way to interpret and explain. So this is another function of theory. It helps us explain things. It gives us better understanding of the things that we see in the world around us. So, and again, we're particularly looking at families. So when we see groups of kids who rebel against parental authority, we might say, are there things going on in the family that push the child to rebel? And we can start, as we start trying to predict this and understand it, we might give some understanding to, and we might say, well, let's go back to parenting styles theory, right? Some theory around parenting styles. And we might say, yes, we can explain a little better that many times kids rebel if the parents are punitive, if they are too demanding without warmth and affection. In other words, if you have an authoritarian type of parenting style. Right? So not only can we predict it, but we could go backwards and say, okay, now this helps us explain. People don't like to be squished into they don't like to have their opportunity to choose taken away, which is what authoritarian families often do. They seem to take that away and make demands without warmth and without affection. So we can answer a lot of how things happen. Answering why is harder, but we try, right? We use theories to try and understand how things happen and why they happen, try to explain them. All right, so those are the 6 functions of theories. Now let's look at some about how to analyze theories. Well, the first thing we could do is we could take a theory and learn about it and say, well, how well does it fulfill these 6 functions? Right? So we could look at it and say, well, this one does well with predicting certain things, but it offers really little in explanation. Right? It doesn't explain it. Right? It just says we can predict this, but we can't explain it. Right? So we might give it some decent marks for at least fulfilling some of the functions for a theory, but then we might say, well, could another theory be better? Could we get just as good of a prediction and also have an explanation? That would be a better theory, right? As we're analyzing theories. 2 great questions to ask about any theory are, what does the theory highlight about families, and what does it obscure about families? Now, when I say what does a theory highlight about families, that means it's the insights. What does it make more obvious about families? And when I say what does it obscure, then we say what does it make harder to see? Anytime you pick up a theory, it's like picking up some type of investigative lens, and you're looking through this lens at families, kind of like a microscopic lens, right? It brings some things into closer view so that you can see it more clearly. But because I'm only looking through this, I don't see some things on the periphery or up and down, right? I don't see some other things. So a theoretical lens helps me see some things better, but it obscures some other things. When we look at family systems theory, we'll see that it highlights the importance of family interaction. It obscures the idea that individuals make choices. So, for instance, and we'll read about this later, some feminist theorists will say family systems theory seems to blame the domestic violence victim because it wants to say that it's the system that's creating the abuse and the victim is a participant in the system, so somehow they become somewhat responsible for the abuse that they're receiving. And they want to say, no, the abuse is a really bad choice by an individual to perpetrate violence against another individual, right? So again, highlights and obscures, right? All theories will highlight some things and obscure others. So it's a great question to think about. 2 great questions to think about. You can also look at table 1.1, page 20 in the book, and it gives another list of things that you can use to potentially analyze theories. And so I'll leave that. That's in the book, so there's no need for me to just rehash what they've said. So I'll refer you to the book for that. So we are embarking on a marvelous journey to understand a set of family theories, and I hope that you will critically think about them, whether they fulfill the functions, what they highlight and obscure, so that you can be able to choose theories that will help you get where you need to go with whatever you need family theories for, as an interventionist, as a scientific investigation, whatever it is. So thank you very much for your attention, and talk to you later.